Awesome.
All yours.
Well, thank you, Ryan, and welcome everyone to this August edition of SCIP. We are so excited to see you all. We hope that everyone has had a fun summer, and if not productive, then at least either exciting or one filled with self-care. How about that? We know that this is the busy season. We're ramping up. A lot of people are preparing to start that cycle of going to conferences and well, you've already submitted, so you're getting ready to go. And you're also closing out great work that'll be available and ready for submission soon. So we are excited, excited, excited. First of all, you'll see on the screen in the middle, there's a wonderful picture and some work done by Ryan, the I Am Special. He's our marketing guy. There we go, we're zooming in on it. But the Lean Healthcare Academic Conference is coming up, and we know that most, if not all of you, plan to be in attendance. Many are going to be presenting there, and we're so excited to learn from one another in that venue. Ryan, I'm not sure, the keychain is a giveaway for SCIP, is that right? So all SCIP members,
Yeah.
You look like you want to talk. Take it.
Yes. It's for all SCIP members, and actually anyone who wants one at the conference. If you're at the conference, I've got enough for anyone who wants one.
Awesome. And we know that Ryan loves to put a great spin on any sort of data details. And so this one was talking about special cause. So we know Ryan is very special to us. And we're grateful for the opportunity to come together at the Lean Conference and also to get some swag. So thank you, Ryan. But today we have a wonderful topic for everyone. It's one that we're excited to record because Ryan especially, and a lot of people in our team get requests for consults to prep for conferences all the time. And so we have the opportunity to hear from Jen Murray, who is an extremely skilled Black belt consultant in the interventional platform space, to share with us how she actually goes through the process when working with clients to generate what turn out to be extremely phenomenal poster presentations, impactful, prize-winning products. So we're just excited to have Jen come and share with us today. I'm going to turn it over to Ryan, and he's going to get us ready for our breakouts. But again, it is wonderful to see everyone in this space, and I'm looking forward to seeing everybody at the Lean Conference.
Thank you, Jakari. That was perfect. We're really excited about, yes, the Lean Conference, and hope to see you all there. As Jakari said, I've been receiving requests as we ramp up for the Lean Conference to do some coaching sessions about posters, especially for people who have not presented posters in the past. And so I wanted to start by giving some of the feedback that I gave in general feedback to the group, so that you have an idea of some of the key points with poster presentations. I'd love to hear your thoughts. So what I've actually asked is Jen to share her journey on this as well, from concept to, well, eventually to final product. What I'm going to do also is I've asked Jen to give me an initial version of her poster for us when we do the breakouts to give feedback on. And so we'll break everyone out, and you'll apply sticky notes onto the poster where you believe there's some opportunities for improvement on the poster. Okay, so let me give the general, some of the general feedback or coaching that I give when going through a poster. So we'll use this template as a way to walk through it. So one of the things I often see, a barrier pitfall with a lot of posters, is that they don't have a clear enough picture of what the problem is that they're trying to solve. So as you look at the poster, if you know data visualization or any kind of visualization techniques, you know, people will start at the top. They'll often read, sometimes they'll read the title, not always. They'll read the title, and then they'll go top left, all the way to the bottom right. And sometimes they'll just scan diagonally. And if they see something that catches their eye, they'll continue to read further, and they may spend time on the rest of the document, in this case, poster. If they don't, they'll often move on. So when you have a situation like a conference where there's lots of different posters, you want yours to stand out. You want people to spend time on it, to read it. And some of the things that will help with that are images, catchy titles. So your title should be very clear on what it is you are doing, what the results. Sometimes that's referred to as the bottom line up front. You give them the punchline right at the top, so that they know what they're going to be looking at, and then they look to the poster for more details. That top left box should indicate in this case, it shows introduction. A lot of times this is going to be the problem you're trying to solve. This is just like in a improvement project. You should be very clear on what's the benefit of working on this. What is the downside to not doing anything? Give us the case for change, the severity of it, the benefit to the customer or patient, and the financial benefit to the institution. Give us a clear view of what you're going to be talking about and what the problem was. That will allow people to be engaged and want to learn more. The other thing is, be very careful to share visuals. Charts are great. Run charts, data over time are great. Some of the things that aren't so great is what we call data walls, where it's just a table full of numbers or even a table full of text. Both of those are really hard to engage with. We call them data walls or text walls, because that's what happens is people hit them and they don't go further. They just move on. So be very careful with that. If you have a lot of text or really dense tables, you might consider trying a different type of visual so people will engage with it. One of the things that I've shared with certain individuals when they want to give more details on their poster than is really able because of the size constraints, is sometimes I've actually encouraged them to use a QR code that will jump to more information if they want, say a white paper or some data or a website that they wanted to use to be able to have people to engage even further beyond. Also to include your email address on there so that people can engage with you after to learn more. So let me give you an example of one that it's a fun one, and it relates to this group. So I think it's not an academic poster. So that's the other thing, is you need to know your audience and what you're trying to convey. So for an academic poster, you're going to want, of course, lots of data. You're going to want charts. You're going to want your traditional walking through the improvement process, making sure you don't skip any steps. Oftentimes with posters, people will give a bit on the background and problem, and then they'll jump right to solutions and maybe a little bit on next steps and sustain plan, but they skip right over the gap analysis. The gap analysis is often one of the most critical parts, especially with a learning conference like what we have at Stanford. That's the whole key. That's what we want people to come back and really engage with, especially some of the areas that have been failures, some of the things you tried that didn't work. That include that in your poster, because that's what we need to know. If we were going to try it, what are some of the pitfalls that you encountered that we might be able to avoid by learning from you? So that would be academic, more in an academic style. This one I put together as a way to promote what we've been doing with SCIP. So I wanted to make it a little more fun, use a lot of visuals, so that, and really high level categories, so people could just bounce through it. And then I think I also, maybe not on this version. Yeah, not on this version. On one of the versions, I actually had my email address, a couple of email addresses, so people could engage to learn more. This one did not. Even better would be a QR code to our website, which I did not do. Also, you see at the bottom, we've got some quotes. Shalisha is one of them she's here today. Karthik is, he was on our teamwork advisory, but he's been involved with this group too. So including a few quotes for something like this is appropriate. For more of an academic poster, maybe not as much. But so it gives you a sense of what it is we're all about, what we're doing. So different styles, but the big takeaways is getting people to engage with your poster. Also, when you're presenting a poster, there's different types of poster presentations. Some will be where they just have the posters in a room or a courtyard, as we do at the Stanford Lean Conference. And they'll have times set aside for people to go look at the posters. When they have those, if you do have a poster, make sure that you're standing next to your poster so that, or someone is standing next to your poster so you can address questions and engage people as they walk through. There are other types of poster presentations, like also we have at the Lean Healthcare Academic Conference and others where you're actually presenting your poster to an audience. And so that's slightly different. You'll walk through it, give the highlights, and you'll have a chance to engage with the audience a little differently. So that's the end with the overview of some of the coaching tips that I've given people when looking at posters. I'm going to quickly open it up to the group for, I know many of you have done posters and you've likely coached people on posters. So I'd love to hear your feedback. And then following that, we're going to jump in and do an exercise together. I got it all? Awesome. All right. Craig, not even Craig. All right. We've got it. All right, perfect. That sounds great. So what we're going to do here is I'll walk through this exercise, and we've got 10 people here currently, so we'll maybe break into two groups. Make it pretty straightforward. So what we're going to do is start with this first question. We'll break out and then ask, if you've presented orally or poster at a conference or other venue, let us know. If you've done it, tell us about it. What went well? What surprised you? If you haven't done it, what's keeping you from submitting an abstract? And does it scare you? Does it excite you? Tell us about the idea of doing a poster or a presentation. And then looking at the poster that I've provided, there's actually an example, see it at the bottom here. This is an initial version from Jen. What are some changes or suggestions you would do to make it better? And then what I'd like you to do on it, directly on it, is if you double click on it, well, you don't want that big of a post-it. Make a note, just go in here, make a note on the poster itself and put your suggestion there. And then we'll come back and we'll talk about it. Any questions about the exercise? Whoa, we're now down to a few left. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to split us out. We'll go, I'm just going to do one breakout room. I'll leave the rest in this room so that we can, it's just easier to manage.
We also get the link to the mural page when you get a chance, Ryan.
Oh, yeah, of course. Here, let me do that now. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Before we get right now.
Put into break room purgatory and we can't get to you.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, there it is. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. And here we go. Let's see. Actually, it looks like I'm going to have to do 2 rooms to make it work. But if you are in room, let's say if you are in room 2, just stay in this. I got to create 2 rooms just because. So if you're in room 2, don't go into room 2, just stay here. Okay. So let's see. That looks good. Okay, here we go. So Lisa, Shalisha, and Tumari, you'll all stay right in this room. Dom, you're gonna jump to, Dom wants to stay in this room, I know. Like such. So let's see, Shalisha, Tumari, Lisa, are you all okay with this being recorded still, this part?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes? Okay, all right, good. Just want to make sure, because we're talking about, we've got that icebreaker as well. So we're going to be room 2. So we'll document on the right side of the screen. So if you go to the link, we're going to be the one on the right. Okay. So here's the question. Have you presented orally or a poster at a conference or other venue? So if so, tell us about it. What went well? What surprised you? And then if you haven't, what's keeping you from submitting an abstract? Does it scare you, excite you? So I'll open that up.
I recently had a poster submitted with the team. I think it was the QI Symposium. And what went well? It's been a very long-term project. So I think everyone could speak to the story very clearly and identify kind of where our pitfalls were. And so I think most people are usually interested in kind of where this project it had some obstacles, right? And how we overcame those, because it's probably something they're either anticipating or experiencing. And really nothing has been a barrier for submitting abstracts. I'm excited for the Lean Healthcare Academic Conference coming up, because I actually have quite a few of my teams got accepted, which is exciting. So looking forward to those sessions. Yeah.
I find it almost as exciting or rewarding to have people that you're coaching
Yeah.
submit and present than it is for myself.
Oh,
In fact, I
absolutely.
think I'm more excited. That, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Excellent. Tumari, is it Tumari? Is that right? Did I pronounce your name right?
Yes, that's right. You got it right. I was gonna say the same thing. It's this year my 2 staff presented posters at our it's called, what is it? ISCT, International Society for Cellular Therapy. It's like just a trade group kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they each did various posters. One took like an academic path, but another took, so I had watched this YouTube video on high impact posters, and their poster just like blew my mind. I was like, oh wow, this is the greatest poster ever. I didn't actually follow up to get feedback to see how it went overall, because like, big poster halls, like there's tons of people coming through. I know that they both got some contacts from or made connections at the conference with people who were interested in their poster and wanted to learn a little bit more. So it was really exciting. Like, oh, they're starting to branch out. But for myself, I don't think I do posters too much here at Stanford, because they're very academically based and not so much like and or academic or hospital quality based. And I don't know, I'm not as familiar with hospital quality, so making that leap from like what I do to how it will be interesting to other people has been a big leap for me that I am not willing to take yet.
I think you'd be maybe surprised at how many people would be interested in some of the things that you do, or especially the improvements you make. It's always worth giving it a shot, because what you think is maybe not very interesting, others might be really struggling with that, and it might be exactly what they're looking for, depending on the conference. So I had the opportunity of being on the review committee this year for our Lean Healthcare Academic Conference, and we reviewed, I think, maybe over 300 abstracts. And so it's really an interesting exercise to go through and see not only what people are submitting, what people are doing, but also what we're looking for. So there's a lot of factors that go into selecting the posters and presentations. So I wouldn't rule yourself out, you know, because you might be exactly what they're looking for. So, excellent.
I agree. And I think it just adds
Lisa.
more diversity to
Oh.
the conference as well, to have different perspectives and just showcase that work in different areas. I think it brings richness.
Lisa and I have a possible poster we're going to be presenting. We'll see. We have an opportunity to present a poster at IHI this year. We're trying to determine if we're going to do it or not. We'll see. We'll see.
Nice. Oh, I'm in the same boat as well. We got accepted into the forum, but
Yeah.
Some of our team just went, well, Dominique and Ling just went to Sigma. So we're still,
Right.
now we're in the picking and choosing of the conferences, which is so interesting.
Not a person who prepares posters, but judge lots of posters. Maybe, Ryan, something we want to put in the meeting minutes or whatever we have for this is I'm sure the Resident Safety Council judges, I don't know, we were a judge, would be happy to share like their judging criteria. And that might be just nice information to have for people, because I think they've used similar criteria for many years, and they probably iterate on it too. But I think, you know, a big part of the poster, if you have a manned poster or a person at the poster, is the enthusiasm and the kind of the charisma of the person that's presenting, you know, because people can really be almost like they wish you wouldn't come up to their poster by their affect or their demeanor, or they can be like, I want to give this, I am so excited that you're here, and they just bubble over with enthusiasm and, you know, smiling and happy. I'm thinking of the people, the residents that did the Kindness Coalition poster, you know,
They're amazing.
I think they won that whole, you know, resident competition. So in addition to having a great product, their presentation was so inviting and engaging.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's kind of like when you have a presentation, you don't want to rely just on the visuals behind you, but really drawing people through the story and how you approach things and the overall energy behind the work. I agree with that. And that's what's really going to make your poster shine, by using it to enhance the story, not to detract or just bog things down with information. I agree.
We were just, Mariah and I were at this, it was in May, this IHI Leadership Alliance that Stanford has just joined. And so you're going to start seeing lots of opportunities to intersect with this Leadership Alliance. But when IHI has a face-to-face meeting, I mean, they are so minimal on slides. They're really strict. You know, like they give the new organizations one slide to introduce their entire organization and why they're joining the Leadership Alliance. And, you know, we'll have to put that together for the October meeting. But, you know, it's just like, if you're really, really intentional about what's on your visual, you're right. It's just it can be so powerful. And then it's much more you remember what the people said, not what the word said on the poster.
That's great feedback. I think you're 100% correct. Makes me think about how welcoming I am when I when I stand at a poster. I hope I am, but certainly the people who did the Kindness Coalition, I think just their whole personality is so welcoming. I think that you're right. That's absolutely part of it, because you want to know more because they're so friendly and accepting. It's so great. I'm going to close the room so that we can have a discussion with the whole group, but keep putting post-its on. I put a couple of post-its, like there's too many words on the one. It's very data dense or text dense. The team formation, problem background, maybe a little bit more on the so what or the severity of the problem. Would love to see the data visualization pop using a different color to highlight what it is they want the viewer to look at. So there's a few things like that that are key points that I would coach on. That's not even getting to the content itself, which also would be an element that we want to look at. So welcome back, everybody. Thank you for doing that. I'm really curious to hear your thoughts and some of the highlights. So I'm going to open it up to all of you and give me some of, I'll share the screen, and then we can talk about what you discussed. And then I'm going to hand it over to Jen. So we'll do about 5 minutes of this, and then I'm going to hand it over to Jen to reveal what she did, her process real fast. So she'll have about 10 minutes to do that. So here we go. Okay. All right, who wants to share? Looks like we only did this one over here. Feel free to share about the poster, also about some of the communication. So go ahead.
Yeah, well, I love that it seems to be kind of a hybrid of the academic poster that you showed earlier, Ryan, and also the more modern version with the icon. So I love that it seems to be kind of a hybrid. You kind of created that your own version of the template. So that's great.
I will share, this is too small for me to read, but I know we have a Stanford color palette that we've been encouraged to use. I do have a trouble with understanding the graphics at times when we use those color palettes. So I was asking Jen, because I've seen her presentation and I know this is incredible work. The target line, I know the target is 60% because I've heard this presentation a few times, but when I first see the middle graph, I was asking her, I was like, it doesn't stand out to me so easily because it's one of the shades of red. And then in the Pareto, the gray, to me, and this is a personal preference, it is a little tricky to see the bar to bar. I am very colorful. I enjoy color. I know Stanford wants us to use these grays and these reds and all shades of them. I do find it very monochromatic, and I wonder if some people may have trouble differentiating. And it's just hard to catch my eye at times. So I know we're supposed to use the palette.
That's great.
I have trouble.
That's great feedback. I love it, and I hope when you think about a lot of that, you're thinking about the session we had on data visualization in the Black Belt course, because that's a lot of what you just shared is straight from that. So wonderful, and I'm sure Jen has in her reveal will have some of that. So we'll see. Oh, look at that! She's not so sure. We'll see. We'll give it a shot. Okay. Who else? Anyone else? Okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to pass it to Jen and see. Why don't you take us through your journey. If you'd like to share, please do.
I will. I just want to start off by saying that this was a very humbling experience, and I wish I had this before the deadline passed, because there definitely were some changes that I saw and I changed, and some of the things that I didn't catch. So I'm still learning and growing and have a lot to learn, but I can at least show you some of the differences that I made from this original draft. So the way that I started this with my team is that I'm a very visual learner, and I wanted to give them some examples. So I did show those 2 posters at the start of this session to my teams to help them start to get inspiration about how did they want their poster to look. So after we kind of did that and some brainstorming, we actually drew the poster out together first about here's how we think we want it to look. These are the graphs that we know that we have, that we use. So here's where we're going to put them. And it kind of helped us to kind of put the pieces together before we divided and conquered. So I helped the team with all of the visuals, and then they helped me with all of the words and telling the story in their own language. So we went from this sort of poster with some of these original graphics that we used in the team promoting the project, but maybe don't tell the story the best in the conference point of view. And then this was the final poster that we finished on. So maybe I can see if I can't make it full screen. Oh, and can we stop? Okay. So one of the things that I noticed in our original data graph that I don't think anyone else mentioned, we had a lot of lines. They had both these graphs had 2 lines that didn't really help tell the story at all. It was just sort of data overload. So I wanted to condense it into telling a cleaner story. I think Dom pulled out the goal line. This project, while they saw improvement, they did not reach that initial goal line. So it really was kind of hurting their story too, which is why we took that out and moved it to just being the averages that we're showing. Oh, one advice I heard from you guys that I did not take was around this process map. The team made an extremely detailed and extremely wordy process map, and they felt a lot of value in creating that process map and learning from each other, but I didn't really want someone to sit there and read the process map because it's not saying anything super new. It was more about the process of going through it, help the team talk about their issues. So I wanted to not have it be a wall of text, which is why I included it there, to be a visual, to be something different and colorful. But my intention was really not to show the words on it, which is why I made it even smaller, just to kind of show this is the idea of a process map, but not that you needed to learn it from it. But there are definitely still, another thing that I tried that was new is that people do skim a lot. And I read somewhere that bolding key phrases in your text can help support people in skimming. And since I knew this was a lot of text, I wanted to try that out. So like the hope is that if you were to read this section, you would see that, okay, this team is talking about their roles and their process. They did something about gurneys and they created a debrief flow sheet. So these things kind of can pop out to you, and if you want to dive in and learn more, it's a little bit more obvious than it was before. So that's kind of where I went, but I definitely got a lot of more advice about how I could have made this poster even better. And I wish the deadline hadn't passed so I could take it. Yeah.
How about some feedback? I think that, so Jen, I think it's great. So some of the things I love about what you've done is, one is you're vulnerable. You're putting it out there. You're willing to share. It's really hard to do that for anyone, especially in a group like this, who some of are experts at doing this. So it's very vulnerable. I really appreciate that you did it. No matter how good you did with it, there's always going to be room for improvement. We're not perfect. So rest on that, because this is really good. It is really good. Could it be better? Of course it could be better. But maybe that's for next time, or when you apply to do another poster. But this is really, really good. So congratulations on it. An excellent job. Thank you for being bold and stepping forward and helping us all to learn, because this is exactly doing that. And I love your process of including the team, doing it on paper first. That's also a technique that we learned in the Black Belt course on data visualization. I love that you did that. It's so great. And then you put it together, and the result is excellent. So great job.
I particularly like that way of showing special cause variation. you can kind of quibble some about maybe taking the labeling off, but that was actually, I'd never seen that before. That way to show, yeah, this is a shift and show the center line and actually annotate some things. That was a, certainly a much more graphically pleasing thing than a QI macros chart, though it's the same stuff.
Well, it likely started with the QI macros chart, right?
Yeah,
Jen?
it did, but
It
it's
probably
in
started
this
with QI
way, which
macros,
is
and then
much, yeah.
she edited it, put the data points right on, the labels right on the data points, and
Yeah.
several tricks and tips that she did that are very subtle. You wouldn't even know it looking at it, but there's a lot there that she tweaked. So great that you picked that up. What else? Lee, you liked it. I saw you commented on that. What did you like about it?
No, I mean, when we were in our breakout session, we talked a lot about, people passing by don't have a lot of time to determine if they want to stop at that poster and if they want to engage with the material. So anything that can facilitate someone being able to make a decision on that poster very quickly is, I think, an improvement. And the changes that she put in just in that short amount of time really caught my eye a lot more than the previous. I mean, I fall in the neurodivergent spectrum, so I think I can sometimes be overly preoccupied with the way that something looks. But some things just sort of, great when you see them. That monochromatic gray-red is not visually, it's not kind to the eyes, I'll say it that way.
Yeah. Jen, would you pop that back up? Because there is one little thing that I think is worth noting that I put on there as a bit of feedback that could. So let's look at the Pareto, for example. The Pareto, one of the techniques that you could use with the Pareto is highlighting the bar that you focused on. So let's say it's provider documentation, and usually you're going to be looking at one of those. So highlighting that in like a blue color, something that really pops out. And then the others would be more like shades of gray, so that you actually are drawing the eye of the viewer to, this is what we focused on. And even in the title, you match that same blue color, that same color scheme up in the title, so that they know what they're looking at right in the title. So you wouldn't even need to be there to be able to present on it. So that's another little trick, is you tie the title with colors with the same scheme that you're looking at the poster. That way they can tie that together. So that's another little trick.
I just want to point out what
this is really good.
Is, what you've done with the text, where you've bolded something to sort of make it stand out and capture your attention. I think by approaching the visualization the same way and using or incorporating some element to the visualization that does the same thing that the bolding does in the text, where it just immediately draws your eye and immediately tells you what you want, or tells the person what you want them to take away from it, is very helpful.
Yeah. I'm definitely learning a lot or reflecting on my process as I'm doing this. This Pareto chart actually had an accompanying graphic next to it that I cut for space. And that's where the colors really came from originally, was tying those two graphics together. But when I cut it, I think they were right, Ryan. There's a different color scheme that would have made more sense. Okay. But I see Maggie's got their hand up. She had it first.
Oh, look at that. Good. Maggie, go ahead.
I just had a question in terms of, is there, and I think this is a presenter preference kind of thing, but in other sort of presentation venues, I've also been told to less words is better. So in other words, maybe just the key phrases under each bullet point, but wanted to get this group's thoughts in terms of, preparation for the poster and what is the sort of the preference here. I mean, I love the fact that each one of your bullet point actually conveys a key concept, very clearly and thoroughly. And you also help the viewer by bold facing really the key concept, that they could take away with. I'm a scanner, so when I scan, I'm like, oh, that's great. I'm able to take away the key concepts. It is, a lot of words. So I'm just wondering, what's the guidance or the thoughts on that?
I'll start with mine, and then I'd love to hear from others. But it's a balance, because a poster should be able to speak for itself. You're telling the story of your project, so you're going to need a mix of text and visuals. Unlike what you would have with a presentation, if you're presenting orally at a conference, then I would really, really hope that you would use mainly visuals, very little text, because in that situation, you're actually, if you have a lot of text, you're competing with your own text when you're speaking, because they're going to want to read your text and also listen to you. It's going to be hard to do both. So the less words, the better. Something like a poster, if you're not at the poster, you want the story still to be able to be told. So that is a bit of a balance. Too many words, they're going to not even look at it. But too few words, you're not going to convey your message. So somewhere in the middle, it is a bit of a balancing act.
Yeah, I think you nailed it on the head, Ryan, with in some ways, I think the poster is actually more challenging than the oral presentation, because you can always fill in any gaps. And of course, you can have those dialogues, versus the poster has to be able to stand on its own to some degree while also trying to engage the person reading it. Something that I've found helpful when giving advice or coaching clients on posters is, can someone who is not even familiar with your project be able to read this and understand the story behind it? I might actually suggest that they go outside their department or even in their personal lives. Can someone read this and understand the story? And I say the same thing with the A3s too. If someone is able to do that, then usually that means you've kind of achieved this high golden bar of, you have a lot of clarity behind what you're saying and showing. So that's usually my suggestion for helping improve these. But yeah, it's definitely hard.
Yeah. I feel like it's also hard because sometimes those two thoughts contradict each other. Of, I want someone outside my department to understand this, so I need to add more words so they have the right context. Then also, the more words makes it more confusing. So it's really hard. I was really struggling with this, definitely. But I'm starting to wonder if Coco Chanel is always right, and you need to take one thing off before you finish things. And what is one idea that I conveyed on this graph that I don't really need to help cut down?
That is the hardest part of any of these. So it's always you're always can do it better. So I would not want to discourage anyone from doing it because of all the potential things that could go wrong, or you might not do it right. Just go for it, try it, and it can always improve for sure. But yeah, I think the learning of this is outstanding. Just even hearing Jen, you talk about the learning you've had even within this session is so encouraging to me, because I think that's what we all aspire to. And that's why we do what we do, is we're constantly improving, right? We're improvement science. So if we're not practicing it, then how can we teach it? And how can we encourage others to do it? So thank you for doing that. Thank you all for leaning into this. I think it's been a really nice exercise, and I hope that people that do watch this get to learn a lot about how they might present as well. So thank you all. I'm going to go ahead and close us with that, and hope you have a wonderful day. And I hope to look forward to seeing you at the Lean Healthcare Academic Conference, September 10th and 11th. So take care. See you later. Bye-bye.